Welcome in, everybody, to the brand new average podcast out
Brand new,
there.
new. Never seen before. Four.
The Shelby Nick average podcast, or as we call it, Aw Snap. There it is. He is Shelby. I am Nick. We are the hosts of this podcast. There is no webcam yet because it's first time. We're going to see how things go. Hopefully there's a snowball effect. We can, get some money down the road. Just kidding. But hopefully there are some funds from other things coming in.
I'm hoping that maybe next month, to be modest, next month we can have Peyton Manning on.
Okay, jumping big. Love to
Shooting
see
big.
it.
Everyone
We're not
tag
even,
him.
we're not even a minute in, and you're wanting Peyton Manning. Love to see it.
I think that's the floor. I want the ceiling is the roof himself, Michael Jordan. Third month, 90-day celebration is Michael Jordan.
So that voice that you hear is Shelby. I am Nick.
Shelby.
As we said that there's no webcams, but hopefully you guys can tell which one of us is talking. The borders light up whenever one of us is talking. Plus, our voices kind of sound a little bit different. Hopefully you guys will be able to figure it out. But let's jump in. This is the first episode. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Shelby.
All right. Well, as the first half of Snap, I am 25. I am a Seahawk and an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, so good to be one. Seahawk fan, to be seen, with some uncertainties up in the air, head coach and whatnot. But, the Thunder's a number 1 seed. We got Shea. As we'll get on later to why I say that to my better half over there. So, me being, a Seahawks fan and that, I grew up really as a Seattle fan in general, the Seahawks fan and the Supersonics at the time. And by the time I really got into watching basketball, they transferred over to Oklahoma City. So, it's been good. It's been bad.
A little bit of everything in between.
A little bit of everything, yeah. Ups and downs.
He is the S in Snap. I am the N. My name is Nick, 21 years old. I dabble a little bit in NHL, but mostly an NFL and NBA fan. For the NFL, I like the San Francisco 49ers. That is my team.
Boo that man!
He's just jealous because as of today, January 25th, we are looking beautifully at the top of the NFC, number 1 seed hosting the NFC Championship.
Legit the last pick, you get Big Cock Brock.
I knew it from the second Jimmy G went down.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I did not. I immediately texted Shelby saying, our season is in shambles. We are not winning another game the rest of the season.
Jimmy Garoppolo's
great. And then that was as soon as he took his first snap. And then by the end of that game, I then texted you again and said, never mind. Look at that. Look at white boy go Super Bowl bound.
Dude, I really mess with Brock. As a Seahawk fan, that might be tyranny, but I really mess with Brock. I mean, with small, what is he? Is he from?
He's from Iowa State. Originally from Arizona, went to Iowa State for college.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. He's farm boy. He doesn't dress up. He's not drippy at all when he walks in. He looks like he's going to church. It's just
his pregame attire walking up to the NFC divisional round, boots, Levi's, looked like a Wrangler, just plain T-shirt. Looked like a Wrangler plain T-shirt.
His name's Big Cock Brock, dude. I mean, he has wrangled them things to his pants every time he throws the ball down the field.
There will be some cuss words in here. There will be a little bit of, what's the funny language, imagery language, all of the
Sentence
different
enhancers.
all of the different types of languages, mainly English. So viewer
You hiding
discretion.
out on me, boy? Huh?
So viewer
You speaking
discretion
Russian over there?
advised. You know, I go, oh, oui. I'm learning a little bit of
That's
French.
not Russian, but all right. We'll roll with it.
We're rolling with it. So why are we doing a podcast? Well, me and Shelby, we have a lot of our sports takes. We talk to each other a lot about sports takes. We decided, why not throw it out to the internet, see where it gets us. You know,
Dude,
see
I
if
know
anybody
exactly where this is
agrees.
getting us.
See if
I said
anybody
it. Come on, dude.
see if anybody agrees with us, see if anybody disagrees with us. Try to improve the sports media world a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we figured
we're bring uppers.
we are bring uppers. You might hear us, you know, make fun of each other, but it's all in good love. Me and Shelby have been friends for a long time. Very long time. As he said, he is 25, I am 21. I remember talking to this guy since I believe I was 7 or 6 years old.
Probably around there, yeah. Yeah,
Going
I'll
on
be 10, 11.
going on 15 years of friendship.
Dude,
And
that's crazy.
do
That's
you
truly
want to
crazy when you say it out loud.
why are we friends? How have we been able to stay friends?
Dude, I just have glorious blonde long hair.
I mean, that
Now-
is true if only the people could see it.
Yeah, just wait till we get that webcam. We look like Prince Charming out here. No, so you know, we met due to some family friends and whatnot, and so our family is into different things other than sports like we are. You know, of course, you have your dad who watches sports and kind of stuff like that, but not like doesn't talk about it like we do. And so I feel like we bonded over sports and kind of being not the outcast. That has a bad rap, but just being not the norm, being the black sheeps of our family. And so, we just decided to kind of get in the same pen and chat it out and all that, and haven't really stopped since then.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't set it better myself. We really became friends due to, as you said, our families. But then as we got to talking to each other, we realized that, there was some chemistry there. I was in middle school, so I was in elementary school when we first met, but throughout the years, you really had to deal with a middle schooler.
Mm,
And, once we got past those years, because
yeah.
those were middle school into freshman year, that was a bad
Yeah.
time to be my friend, but you stuck it out.
I thug it out.
You stuck it out, and here we are flourishing, trying to start a podcast with each other now.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell
Hell yeah.
yeah. But as you said, you are a Seattle Supersonics fan and an Oklahoma City Thunder fan
Mm-hmm.
and a Seattle Seahawks fan. I guess Supersonics and Oklahoma City are the same thing. How
Yeah.
did you become a fan of those teams?
Okay, so funny enough, I'm not from Seattle, and I feel like people have a tendency of picking like a city almost, and just kind of like living your interest through there, such as California with 49ers and Clippers and whatnot. So, I really became so. Let me start with the NFL side. So, my dad was a Cowboys fan. He would always talk about Cowboys sucking so bad and all that. So, naturally as a kid, you're like, well, these guys suck. Why would I be a fan of them? And so, I just kind of gravitated towards a team. I really like the uniforms and all that. I love the navy blue and the bright green. My favorite color being green. It just all kind of worked out that way. So, the Seattle was kind of like a shoe. I kind of floated around for a while, then just picked a team and stuck with it. The Supersonics. So I got this Game Boy Advance from my friend, and there was a sticker on it, and it was the logo for the Supersonics. Again, green, favorite color. liked it. And then, because my dad wasn't a basketball watcher at all, really. I was kind of the one that started all that. And so, I just that's the only team I really knew, other than like the Lakers and all that. But, I feel like growing up, you don't want to be like a follower kind of thing. So no one liked the Supersonics. I have a sticker of them, so just kind of stuck with that. And yeah, really haven't looked back. I mean, now Thunder doing great. Back then they had years where they're doing great too, and just stuck with it.
Very beautiful to see how somebody came up. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks jerseys, the fact that you liked the Seahawks jerseys with those navy blue, did you come in with like Sean Alexander and the Matt Hasselbeck jerseys?
Matt Hasselbeck, that dude. My biggest memory, because of course it was. I want to preface this with like, when I was a fan, it was like a loose fan. Like I said, our families didn't really watch football or sports or anything like that. So it was like when I caught games, it was the Seahawks. But God, do I remember him saying in overtime, first thing said, "We want the ball. We want to end this thing." And Nick
did end it. He did
what
end
did he
it.
do the very next play?
He
ended that game.
He ended
threw
that
a
game
pick
in
six. And dude, I don't know if you remember this, but it's like stamped in my head, and I'm sure other Seahawkers out there will understand this. It wasn't even like a good defensive play. I mean, like it was more. It looked like the defender was the receiver. I mean, it was like I'm pretty sure it was an out route. wasn't even remotely close. I mean, the guy caught him in stride. I'm pretty sure he prime timed it into the end zone, and it was just shambles. So yeah, Matt Hasselbeck has a place in my heart on the bad side.
So
there's a hatred for
that.
I'll put down him.
That is a beautiful story, but that is not the question that I asked.
What do you mean?
I just asked if you came in with those jerseys. Were those the first jerseys that you saw of the Seattle Seahawks team that you liked? Those worn out navy jerseys that looked god awful.
Yeah, they're a lot better now that they kind of like got them out of the sun, got them in the shade, and then took the picture. Not like 110-degree concrete day. Well, now I feel dumb. That's fine. So,
well,
yes.
as everybody listens to this podcast more, if people decide to stick around and listen, they will come to find out that we are both pretty not smart. Let's just put it that way. Pretty not smart.
Pretty smart. Average, one would say. Average, like podcast.
Below average, some would say.
Below average podcast.
But
see, the thing is, when
we come,
doesn't roll a tongue.
Well, that's the thing. When we come together, then it's an average podcast.
Facts. Yeah, us separate. Yeah, I like that.
So
We're
I
like
became.
Fractions, so that doesn't turn into a whole. It just turns into a higher.
It just turns into a higher fraction. Exactly.
Quick maths.
So as I said before, I'm a Clippers fan and a 49ers fan. I became a Clippers fan back in the 2015 playoffs. So the 2014 season, but the 2015 playoffs.
Yeah.
And, I was kind of in a weird point to where everybody that I was hanging out with played a lot of NBA 2K. And so when I'd go over to your house, I'd play a lot of NBA 2K, but, as we've said before, no kid is going to look at a team that they think is bad and go, I want to be a fan of that team.
No joke.
Now, I did not, as however old I was, 13 years old, I did not understand the whole bandwagoning thing. So going up against my older cousins, my older brother in NBA 2K, I just wanted to be the best team that I could possibly be. And in NBA 2K12, the best team was the Miami Heat. And I'm not a fan of the Heat, but that becomes relevant because since I liked the Heat, I did not like anybody who challenged the Heat or threatened the Heat for the NBA title. And as those years went by, those 2 years went by where I wasn't really a fan of anybody, I just kind of liked the Heat because they were good in NBA 2K. I really started to dislike the Spurs. I really did not like the San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so thus came around the 2015 NBA playoffs. It was set where a 6-seeded San Antonio Spurs would go up against a 3-seeded Los Angeles Clippers team. And so after watching that series went to 7 games. And I wasn't rooting for the Clippers at that time. I was just rooting against the Spurs. And I remember game 7 of that series in the fourth quarter, Chris Paul goes down with a hamstring injury. He has to take some time out. The Spurs and the Clippers have a very, very close game. And Chris Paul comes back in. He gets the ball immediately. And with the game on the line, drives into the paint, jumps up for a little layup floater type shot.
High off the glass.
High off the glass. One hand on the ball, the other hand back on the injured hamstring, and he makes the shot to beat the Spurs. And ever since that shot went in, I have been a fan of the Los Angeles Clippers.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was in LA too.
It was in LA because it was a game 7 and the Clippers were the higher seed.
Dude, what a better way. That is like, when you're playing basketball, like in the driveway, and you're like, oh, he takes the final shot. And, like that is like that.
It 100% is what every kid dreams of. The only way you could have made it better is if it was in the finals and not the first round of the playoffs. But because it was in Los Angeles, obviously the stadium erupted. I erupted. I was so happy. I became
not to mention, it was the previous champs, right?
It was the previous champs.
Yeah, so I mean, like everyone's kind of praying on the Spurs down. See that we're going back to back, and and Chris Paul, and I'm really upset because Chris Paul like gets a bad rap now. Like after his Suns and Warriors days, they kind of forgot about who he was. I mean, there was talks about him being, the best, if not top 2 point guards behind like Rondo or Williams at the time, kind of stuff like that, where he was him.
So obviously, going back, like Chris Paul, when he was on the New Orleans Pelicans, dog. I mean, he was like getting 3rd or 4th in MVP voting. Went to the Clippers. That whole Lob City era with Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick in at shooting guard, and then whoever we could plug and play in at small forward was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Was the funnest basketball I've ever seen. And then Chris Paul goes to the Thunder, where nobody thinks they should flourish. He single-handedly wills them to a 6 seed into the playoffs. And then from there...
Young Shea.
Yeah, and then...
Yeah, it was young Shea, right?
Yeah, it was a young Shea. And then from there, like you said, he's just like... He's pretty much just been a shell of himself. We've seen spurts. Like, there have been games where he was on the Suns. I think he went like 14 for 14 in like a game 6 when he was on the Suns. But then, like, other than that, like, nobody's really talked about Chris Paul being like the guy that he was.
Yeah, and it's really upsetting because, like, there's yes, I do think there are playoff performers and there are playoff chokers. And it really sucks that he gets labeled as because, I mean, with Doc Rivers, like, I know, he did good things for Lob City, and I don't think Lob City was Doc there. But, with him having horrible report or a horrible. I mean, he has the most 3-1 leads blown. I think that has a lot to say. And then with the Suns, I mean, you had the Suns were really good, but dude, that Bucks team was just hot.
Yeah,
I
they
mean, they were
really.
hungry. So
It did kind of. It was just bad timing, pretty much for all of Chris Paul's career. Because with the
yeah,
Pelicans early on, it was like you had teams that he couldn't get over the hump, and then with the
yeah,
Lob City Clippers, that was when you know the Heatles were around, and when the Heatles disbanded, then came the Golden State Warriors that he couldn't get over, and
oh
then
yeah,
came the James Harden Rockets, where James Harden would put up 40, 45 points a game, and then as you said,
for
when he
like a
went
month. Yeah,
and then, as
that's
you
what's
said,
crazy.
when he went to the Suns, the Warriors were still a good team at that point, and then you just had the crazy, nasty Bucks team
Hmm.
where Giannis was undoubtedly the best player in the NBA at that time.
Yeah,
So, like, Chris Paul has really just had terrible timing throughout his entire career, it seems like.
yeah. Well,
And it
that
says,
and I mean, people need to realize there's only one, two. You know,
and
especially
it's,
when you have all these prolific teams getting built up
yeah,
against. I mean, only one's gonna win because you even forgot the young, KD Russ Thunder team.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that's
where
just
they
Homer
were.
pick, but I mean, they did go to the
Well, that's the thing.
final.
They did go to the finals, and they went up against the stupidly stacked Heat team,
Yeah, exactly.
and so it was just with just the bad timing and everything. And like every time, it seems like Chris Paul makes it to the NBA playoffs. The NBA media always wants to say if Chris Paul gets a ring, he's a top 5 point guard, maybe even top 3. But the
Yeah,
fact that he doesn't have a ring makes him top
worthless
10.
essentially. Like no one even thinks about him, and the first thing that's brought up is, well, where's his ring? He's a horrible playoff performer. Just a bunch of bad, negative narratives.
But yeah, so going back, the against the Spurs, against the defending champion Spurs, one hand on the ball, one hand on his injured hamstring, buckets, game, series. Clippers win it. Little Nick becomes a Clippers fan for life.
Yeah. Hey, I really hate to be that guy, but we just asked if you like.
I mean,
That's
that's really funny that you wanted to do that because you, at least on my end, you were cutting out pretty bad in and out. So
wrong.
yeah, you might want to try to get your audio set up before you
Get
try
your
coming at me.
shit right, man. Yeah. Well,
But
here,
so
I have it in my mouth next time.
yeah, that's how I became a Clippers fan before we went off on that tangent. And how I became a 49ers fan. Once again, a little bit of a story here for that. First time I ever really paid attention to football was the Super Bowl. The only game that I ever really watched when I was young was the Super Bowl. And I went over to my aunt's house for the Super Bowl on February 3rd, 2008. I'm not too good with Roman numerals, but that is the Patriots versus the Giants. I believe that's the first
Dude,
time around.
I'd love, because the next time was 2012. So
And
I love that Super Bowl. That's one of my
I
favorites.
was eating food, looked up at the TV, and I saw a particular man catch a football with his helmet with two people draped around him. And from that moment, I became a football fan. I said, moments like this could happen. That's awesome. Count
Yeah, no
me
shit.
in.
Oh, then you had big bad Ray Lewis just laying too.
And so from the helmet catch, I became a a football fan, and I did like the Giants. I liked Mario Manningham. I was a big fan of Victor Cruz with the salsa.
Dude, that salsa took over my middle school. Or my middle
But
school, elementary school, whatever grade I was. It took over that shit.
but fast forward a couple years, the the reason I became a 49ers fan was mainly kind of a family thing. My dad was a 49ers fan. My mom doesn't really have a team to root for, so she just goes with my dad. So she's a 49ers fan. So very young, very impressionable at that time. I just became a 49ers fan as well. Really helped out me and my dad with conversations at some points. The bond is stronger, which is nice, but there were some times where all we could pretty much talk about were the 49ers. But with the helmet catch and everything, and then and it really works out because with the 49ers now, I mean, they're just on a tear. The 49ers are great at drafting people, and I absolutely love this 49ers team. And it all started because of my dad.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. That's a good thing about sports too. Like I don't know, there's so much narratives and story and stuff like that. It's not like keeping up with the Kardashians.
Well, there's
just
so
a bunch
many
of bullshit, but
it's as
it's the same drama. Like the amount of drama, because it's just when you have that much people get together, that much passionate people for one goal. I mean, you're bound to have storylines.
that, and you can get into sports for many different things, for many different reasons. Like I said, I became a 49ers fan for family oriented. You can get into sports as an escape from the reality. You can get into it as I said, for family orientation. You can get into it because of the storylines. Maybe you just like to see grown men running and hitting each other for 10 hours every Sunday.
Yeah,
I mean,
or you can be my girlfriend that just thinks.
You cut out there, so I would like you to re-say your sentence.
Okay. I said, or you could be like my, and who just thinks Jalen Hurts is hot and become an Eagles fan.
So, or you can, think people are attractive, but there's very many different reasons. Yes, as I said, there is very many different reasons to become a fan of sports, and those are just the ways that we have become a fan of sports.
Yeah,
as we've said,
definitely.
We are a fan of sports. I am a fan of NFL and NBA. I dabble in NHL a little bit. I know a little bit about hockey, but
I know puck goes in goal.
I know that the little black disc that slides around on the ice has to go into the net. Or I guess not even that. I guess cross the line. But I can hold a conversation with hockey, but most of my sports knowledge is going to be in the NFL and then the NBA.
Right. Well, since we're going to be talking about NFL, then why don't we jump in our topics for the NFL then? Then we can follow up the rear with my NBA.
That is a beautiful idea.
Let's do it.
Mr.
You lead
S.
off. Mr. N.
So, and here we are on the AP. So, we can start it off with what happened this past weekend. Thoughts on the divisional playoff games that happened around the league. You have Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. We have the Green Bay Packers at the San Francisco 49ers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions, and the Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. So starting it off, we'll kind of go by the order in which the game was played. So Saturday at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, The Houston Texans faced off against the Baltimore Ravens. And do you have any thoughts about how that game went down?
How that game went down? I think it just proves that, the Ravens are the team, really. I mean, they're probably my favorite to honestly probably win the whole thing. I mean, yes, the Niners are amazing, they're great and all that, but I mean, when you have, because my beef with Lamar Jackson has always been that he's a runner first, and now he took that back seat where, or not really back seat, but he's letting his throwing capabilities that he showed in Louisville really come out, and then right when you think, oh, we got him, I mean, he busts out for 20, 30, 40-yard run. So I really think that's the recipe to play. The Texans on the other side, it wasn't a good game for them. I think they're just outclassed. But I think it really shows that there's a lot of promise down in Houston.
The other thing that, or one thing, I can't say the other thing yet. There is no first thing yet. So the first thing that I think a lot of people are quick to forget is that Nico Collins is not the Texans' number one wide receiver. Nico Collins is the Texans' number two wide receiver because Tank Dell, who was injured, is the number one wide receiver. Now, when you get in late to the season, you can't always expect every team to be 100% healthy. But
Right.
for a team that lost their number one wide receiver, a rookie quarterback who lost his number one wide receiver late into the year, to still be able to have confidence in another wide receiver and go out there and absolutely sling the ball and get, 250 plus, I believe it was 300 plus passing yards against the Browns defense and move on to the second round. I mean, yes, he didn't look good against the Baltimore Ravens defense, but that's because it's the Baltimore Ravens defense.
Yeah, no lie. I mean, they play quick, they play fast.
You said something about Ray Lewis and how
Uh-huh.
good he was at middle linebacker, and we are seeing glimpses of Ray Lewis through Roquan Smith. The
Yeah.
way Roquan Smith plays is absolutely beautiful.
Truly, he just plays. So I'm gonna let you all in an inside joke. So I once said I just like good football, and
Good
I have been
football.
getting roasted about it since then from
He
Nick.
just likes good
I
football.
just like good football, and
He doesn't like bad
That-
football, folks. He likes good
bad
football.
football bad, good football good,
Good football, good.
good football good. But Roquan plays some good football, dude. Like the whole Ravens team, it just plays. They play so fluid with each other. Like I said, they play quick, and it just seems like they don't really make those mental errors that a lot of teams can take advantage of. I mean, they
Well, it's that, as I say, the offense gets a lot of praise. And obviously, because they have the MVP frontrunner, and who I personally think should be the MVP in Lamar Jackson at quarterback.
Oh yeah,
But-
even over McCaffrey.
We can get into that later. But yes, I personally believe Lamar Jackson should be the NFL MVP. But because of that narrative, I don't think the Ravens defense gets talked about enough and how well they all play together. I mean, the way that it comes down from Kyle Hamilton to Roquan Smith to Kyle Van Noy edge rushing to the people around him. I mean, you have Patrick Queen, who's a great middle linebacker who could be a top 5 middle linebacker on his
Somewhere
own,
else.
as I say,
Yeah.
on his own team, and he's fine with being, the number 2 linebacker on his own team.
Mhm.
And so just the way that everybody plays with each other, I think I saw a stat where like Kyle Hamilton is the best safety in coverage. I mean, I
Right.
don't remember the exact stat, but like Kyle Hamilton has been doing very phenomenal things. And I think because they finally have that guy at safety, so many of them can play freely, and that defense is, I was going to say it was the best defense in the regular season. I'll say it was the best defense in the playoffs, and 100% I think it's the best defense remaining in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I truly think so because there's something to say. For instance, the Niners have a really good front with Chase Young and Nick Bosa and that. But there's something to be said when you have obviously your standouts, or not. Honestly, I wouldn't even say standout. I mean, like, yeah, Roquan Smith is probably the best player on that defense, but it's not by like a mile. I felt like they're all like good at what they do. I mean, I wish I really had the list in front of me, but it looks like, and it feels like it's all almost top 10 in every position is on that team. And there's no divas or no drama. They just go out, they lay the wood, they get turnovers, call it a day.
So, yeah, that Baltimore Ravens team is an absolute wagon to jump on. If anybody wants to root for a team, it'd probably be best to root for the Baltimore Ravens because they have a very good shot.
Yep.
That
And
being
a
said,
pretty prestigious coach. Like, I mean,
yeah,
he's done it. He's had plenty and plenty of winning seasons.
he's done it before. His entire family has done it.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows good football.
He does know good football. If I know good football, I know that he knows good football.
Jim Harbaugh, he knows good football. John
football.
Harbaugh, he knows good football. I mean, Jim Harbaugh does too, but John Harbaugh, coach of the Ravens,
Knows NFL good.
he knows NFL good football.
Yep.
That being said, though, kudos to the Houston Texans. Going out there, rookie coach, rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver 1, rookie wide receiver 2. Obviously, number 1 got hurt, but very young team. Even looking at the defensive side, Derek Stingley Jr. is very young. And the way that D'Amico Ryans has, quite frankly, turned around a franchise in 1 year is astonishing.
And that's what's really crazy is like with D Hop, even with D Hop and Deshaun, there always felt like that cap, right? And I don't mean to be, blowing the Texans this early, but it just felt like there's so much more growing to do when like Deshaun Watson, before he was dealing all the trouble he was dealing with down there, he felt like he's a bit good as he's going to be. DeAndre Hopkins felt as good as he's going to be. J.J. Watt, a little bit past his prime. So it just felt like that moment was the moment they lost to the Chiefs by blowing that huge lead. Like after that, it was wraps. But here, there's so much promise with them that it's going to be a lot of fun to watch football.
Yeah, everybody in key positions too are going to continue to grow. Like it's not like, oh, your right guard is going to continue to grow and that'll make a world of difference. I mean, a right guard going from good to great could make a difference, but it's not going to make as much of a difference as your quarterback and wide receivers being able to grow with each other.
Well, and not only that, but he has Dameon Pierce as a backbone too. So if the passing game ain't working for whatever reason, they can get Pierce up and going because Pierce is a second-year player, correct?
Yeah, Dameon Pierce was a rookie last year.
Yeah, and he was fantastic. So we know that there's still him on the backside that because I feel like every good team needs a balance, and that's why I feel like the Chiefs are going to run into problems. But when you have a balance that of a run game to keep some people in the box, but then the pass game to punish those people in the box, like it kind of puts them in a predicament.
Plus, that's not even saying like play action passes become so much better. When you have to have those linebackers kind of take that step or two forward and kind of freeze them to make sure that they're not actually handing the ball off.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, you got to keep them up.
And we've seen multiple times already where CJ Stroud not afraid to let it fly. I mean, he's had multiple 70-plus yard touchdown passes, one in the playoffs and one in week 18 for the division, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so in key moments, in big games, he's not afraid to sit back and launch the football.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, he's very humble and all that. They're like, you guys are the underdogs to Browns. And he's like, all right, bet, cool. He's like, let's do this. Let's shut some people up.
When he went on the Pat McAfee show, and the Pat McAfee show was telling him, other analysts are saying you have no shot, and the only response he had was, "That's cool, good to know."
That's great, and that's great as from the outside looking in, as I can tell that with that mentality, I just know that locker room is going to be on the up and up. And I feel like with a place like Houston, that the newest team never had success. Like where the Ravens, ever since they started, they had success. Where now you have to build that success and you have to become the greats that previous teams would be talking about. Like the Niners, I can't even imagine how tired they are about hearing about Steve Young. It's like shut up already. But now you get to be those guys. You get to live in the moment like that. When you have a quarterback that's, just cool with everything, he's all right, cool. Like I want you guys to do this.
Yeah. So for the game, Houston at Baltimore, it was close in the first half. Score of 10-10. The Baltimore defense was really shining throughout that entire game. I mean, the Baltimore defense only let up 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
The game ended 31-10, but the Texans got a punt return touchdown. The Texans offense couldn't do anything. And so the Baltimore defense, and especially there in the second half, when the Ravens started rolling, you could just tell. And when the Ravens started rolling, when Lamar was out there and he could sling the ball and the designed run plays on the 3rd and 1, 4th and 1s and stuff like that, it just felt like Todd Monken, their new offensive coordinator, was in the zone calling plays. Lamar Jackson was in the zone, being able to pick apart defenses, knowing when to run, when to stand in the pocket. Absolutely beautiful second half from the Baltimore Ravens, and they get to play another game of football.
Good football, mind you. Good football.
Good football. Good football.
Well, so while we're on the topic of great young teams, I think the Green Bay Packers have to be talked about, which is, conveniently our next topic. So
the next game matchup, Saturday night football. Going to Santa Clara, the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Green Bay Packers. Your thoughts?
Dude, them boys in yellow and green. I admit, I'm going to call a spade a spade. I was dead wrong when I first watched them. When Aaron Rodgers left town, I was like, this is going to be tough. Like, I don't think Jordan Love's up to it. I don't think the coach is up to it. When you go from having one of the greatest quarterbacks in your franchise history, probably the greatest one, over Brett Favre. I mean, when you have that leaving, there's a huge gap left, and Jordan Love did an amazing job of filling it. Of course, there's some growing pains in the beginning, but I feel like he kind of showed like the Packers culture.
Yeah, going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. At some point, you got to think, can the Packers for once just not have a quarterback?
Dude,
please?
It's the cheese. That's the only thing I can come up. It got to be the cheese.
Because even with the growing pains at the beginning, I also think that some of that has to be accredited to Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones being hurt for the most of the season. Because once Aaron Jones came back, it's like you said, the run game got going, and that just takes so much pressure off of a quarterback in general, let alone a young quarterback. And then when it got to the end of the season, I'm primarily talking like the Green Bay Packers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Once that game happened, it seemed like the Packers were just snowballing in the right direction. Like they were getting hot at the right time and just doing better and better and better. And obviously we saw it in the Dallas Cowboys game where they just absolutely routed the Cowboys. Absolutely routed them.
Yeah, so much so that people forgot how good of a defense this is. Like the Cowboys defense during the regular season. It had nothing but good praise. And then Cowboy fans were calling for the defensive coordinator's head because of it.
Yeah, Dan Quinn was like high up. Dan Quinn is the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, obviously. Yep. And like a lot of Cowboys fans were calling, like he was high up on like to get a head coaching job. But people were saying that he's no longer going to get a head coaching job, and that's what it kind of looks like now. We'll get into that later. And that like stuff like that where like the Cowboys want him gone. And it's like, wow, it took one game. He looked good 17 out of 18 games. And all it took was one game, and people are saying to get him out of town.
Yeah, which I think really goes into how just toxic and bad Cowboy fans are. Like, there's obviously that's not everyone, but just like the loud ones. The loud few is the ones that really kind of ruin the name for them. I mean, as soon as something bad happens, it just instantly it has to be someone else's fault. Where Jerry Jones or Mike McCarthy or the coordinators. It's always someone.
Yeah, and so for the Green Bay Packers to take control of that game, they were very hot going into Santa Clara, obviously. And as a 49ers fan, I was not confident going into the game. In fact, I was nervous about the game for all of it. I was nervous for 59 out of the 60 minutes of game that was played. And the only reason why it's not 60 out of 60 was because Dre Greenlaw intercepted the ball with a minute left.
Yeah, see, I'm going to say it was longer for me because that boy had that ball just out there. I mean, all it would have took is just a good hit, like a good slap on the hand, and that came out.
It was the way that he was running with it. He was trying so hard to get that pick six that
for no reason.
He was doing the swim move with the ball. I mean, it was all just grip at that point. Like you said, all it would have taken is just a light, like lucky 2 or 3 fingers to graze the ball, and it would have been on the turf.
Yeah, no joke.
And so everybody's just like, for the love of God,
go down,
go down, please. Yeah. I can't take this anymore.
Yeah, no joke. I was too. I was like, what are you doing? What is he doing? Oh my God, what is he doing?
And the storyline that I want to come away with that divisional game is Brock Purdy did not play good in that game, but he played great when he needed to play great.
When he needed to, yeah, for sure.
Because as we said before, it seems like Brock Purdy gets nothing but hate when it comes to the sports media world. It seems like there's voices that are starting to pop up here and there where people, are appreciating Brock Purdy for what he's done.
Yeah.
But it just seems like he has been getting nothing but hate. And to go out there, Brock Purdy had 3 weeks of rest. 3 weeks of rest because he sealed the number 1 seed, and then he didn't play week 18 against the Rams. Then he had another week where he was the bye week, first round of playoffs. So that's 2 weeks of football that he wasn't playing. And to go out there, he had a little rust. Deebo Samuel, we recently learned that the game plan was for Deebo to get the ball. George Kittle went on the Pat McAfee show and pretty much said that he thought that Deebo was going to get 300 yards and 3 touchdowns that game. So when you haven't played a lot of football and your entire game plan goes out the window, it's going to be tough, and Deebo performed when he needed to. Or not Deebo, excuse me, Purdy. Brock Purdy performed when he needed to.
And that's really funny because I know we had this conversation, so I'm going to bring it to you. But in the beginning of the season, you were like, Deebo's the number 1 and kind of stuff like that. And I always thought Brandon Ayuk was. I mean, he's one of the best route runners in the game and all that. And I actually saw his today saying that he is 7th in yards, but 30th in targets.
I saw that same stat too.
Yeah, and that's crazy to me. And I mean, it just shows how well Kyle Shanahan has that team oiled. I mean, if you can somehow stop McCaffrey, all right, cool. We have two Pro Bowlers, probably 3 in Kittle because the tight end is just that weak. But nothing against him, and just
Well, George Kittle made
there's
the
only one
AP
ball.
team. George Kittle made the AP All-Pro first team.
First team?
He is technically
Over
George.
Hawkinson?
Technically, George Kittle is the best tight end in football this year. That's what AP says. I am a 49ers fan, so I get that you but he made AP All-Pro first team. So he is, right there it says he's the best tight end this year.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't get to vote on it.
That,
Yeah, I didn't get to vote on it, obviously. I don't know
I voted for myself.
I don't know if I would have voted for Kittle, but hey, he made it. Best tight end in football.
I definitely think Hawkinson had the best.
But it's as you said, we had that conversation of who's the best wide receiver. Now the number one wide receiver is that's hard to say who the number one is. The best wide receiver is Brandon Ayuk as a pure receiver, but I think I can't even say best playmaker is Debo because you have Christian McCaffrey in the back, but just the way that, because obviously Debo is a really, really, really good NFL player. I mean, it's just an athlete. He can play literally any position. So we have the number one. I'll say this: the number one wide receiver is Brandon Ayuk. The number one running back is Christian McCaffrey, and the number one wide back is Debo Samuel.
Number one, both.
Yeah, number one Bofa is Debo Samuel because that dude can play everything. He even plays kick returner when we need a big play to happen. If I ever get a chance to talk to Debo Samuel or George Kittle or Brock Purdy, I might faint.
Who do you think would be the number one though? Like, who do you think would be your first target? I guess.
It depends on the scenario and the situation. If you want to go short, I would go to Debo. If you want to go long yardage, like long air yardage, like the completion 20, 30 yards down the field, I'd go Brandon Ayuk.
No, I was saying like if you got to talk to him.
George Kittle would be number one. He is my absolute favorite player in the NFL.
He's good football. He's good football and good attitude. And good energy. I mean, he just goes out there and has.
He has fun. Watching him,
good fun.
Watching him in every interview that he's been a part of, watching him just play the game of football. The fact that he wasn't even invited to join that Thursday night football set when the 49ers played on Thanksgiving. He went anyway.
As you should. I mean, that's the character you
Kittle
want in front of the camera.
George Kittle and Fred Warner were sitting off to the side, and they were talking to each other like, "Should we go? Like, I don't know if we can go or not." And Kittle was just like, "Yeah, I'm going. I don't care. I see turkey. I want turkey. I'm going."
I would say what's really funny is didn't he throw a piece in the crowd?
Yeah, he took the turkey. He took the entire turkey, threw a piece into the crowd.
Dude, what a man. What a man.
I absolutely adore George Kittle. Hands down my favorite player in the NFL. Hands down.
Yeah. I think all things considered.
And if anything, it's just it's kind of like a cherry on top that he's on my favorite team.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, no joke. Well, so with all that being said, let's move on to the next one. Tampa Bay and the Lions.
Yes, Sunday at 3:00 Eastern time, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers faced off against the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. That was a good back and forth game. At one point, it seemed like the Lions were going to take off, but every time the Lions tried to take something off, it seemed like Baker just knew what to do.
Yeah.
Now, granted, 80% of the time was just Mike Evans down there somewhere. Fuck it. Mike Evans going to be there.
No joke. And honest, I mean, that's his play style, man. I mean,
well, and that's what Mike Evans does, and that's what Baker Mayfield does. We saw it at Texas A&M with Mike Evans, and we saw it at Oklahoma with Baker Mayfield, and they just synchronized. I don't know, it was very fun to watch, but in the end, that Detroit Lions team is fun to watch, and they are scary.
I love Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell got a lot of hate during those first couple seasons, and I'm really glad that they stuck with it because
especially with what he said, like we're gonna get knocked down, we're gonna come up and bite a kneecap off, and it's very cringy and very like. But that it's funny because that's exactly what the Lions needed. They needed someone that's gonna go in and be like, look, I ain't gonna lie to you, we're Detroit Lions. We don't have a lot of success. We literally have the worst season of all time just a decade ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. He brought a culture, and he's been bringing in people to fit that culture. It's not like he's tried to change the culture around players like multiple teams try to do. He brings in players like his draft class, was like the people that he drafted this past season, like on the very beginning, I'm pretty sure he got a draft grade of F from people. But if you look at his system, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta are 2 of the 5 offensive rookie of the year candidates.
Yeah.
And Sam Laporta leading, I'm pretty sure he has the record now for rookie tight end receiving yards and receptions.
I believe so.
Jahmyr Gibbs has been on an absolute tear. And even on the defensive side, Jack Campbell is an absolute dog. And we saw Branch have a pick 6 game 1, and he's done nothing but succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pick 6 game 1 against the Chiefs, nonetheless, who you rarely see pick 6s against.
Well, last year. Yeah. But, no, you're exactly right. I mean, it's the Lions, I hope, is going to be a good front runner for, like, what a coach can do, what culture change does. And I really hope that gets hammered home because, like Mike Vrabel, when he was a Titan, I feel like he was very other way around. Dan Campbell was very Mike Vrabel-esque, like very hard-nosed, like fucking get down to it kind of thing. But it's just I feel like Vrabel was stuck with Derrick Henry and Tannehill. You're pigeonholed. Where this Lions team is now young, growing. It feels like Campbell has his hands in everything more than what Vrabel had in Tennessee, and I think it's going to be a beautiful thing to see going on.
Yeah, and I think like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost their offensive coordinator. Mike Evans is a free agent. Baker Mayfield is a free agent. I'm pretty sure Antoine Winfield is a free agent. So there's a lot of questions surrounding them this offseason. But this Lions team is going to be a good team to watch. They're going to play good football for many years.
I hope so. I hope so, and I really enjoy that Jared Goff is kind of at the helm of that because with the Rams he was really good. I mean, he had that amazing game against the Chiefs that was super high score. I think like 90 total points or something crazy like that was scored in a single game. Where he had that great year, and then people kind of start counting him out. Where now he's starting to catch traction again, and I think that just shows that like what happens to a kid that you believe in.
Yeah, because obviously that first year that he came in and went like 3-13, and even the first half of last season where they were like 1-7, I believe, or something like that.
It wasn't good, yeah.
Like they were not a good football team and did not play good football for a season and a half, and everybody was calling for their heads. But just the fact that the owner and the GM stuck by them and kept telling them, like, no, you guys have this. We're going to stick with this. You guys are going to be good. And to see where they're at now with the tough, the gritty. Because a lot of football fans like the flashy stuff. the 70-yard touchdowns. To be able to see a team go 14 plays, 70 yards, and it's all just comprised of 4, 5, 6-yard runs, shoving it down the throat of the other team, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And so the Lions took off in the second half. Lions kind of realized that they were the Lions in the second half.
Yeah, which is funny because it used to be the completely other way around when they realized they're the Lions.
Yeah, it feels weird to say that.
Yeah, no joke.
And then I got to give it to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. They played a tough game. Rough that it came down to a game-sealing interception. Yeah. Because I don't want that to be the narrative on Baker Mayfield for how he played this season. Because Baker Mayfield didn't play great this season, but against the Eagles he played phenomenal, and against the Lions he played pretty well. Even his first pick was off the hands of Mike Evans into the air, and then the second pick happened.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like that last pick happened because he was trying to force it,
Yeah,
which Baker has a nasty tendency of doing. Look at his time in Cleveland, especially towards the end. There's a lot of forcing and kind of stuff like that. So,
yeah, because of the situation, trying to get down the field and whatnot, especially in the playoffs too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time.
The last game of the divisional round, Kansas City Chiefs traveled to Buffalo for Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game that was not a Super Bowl. And the Chiefs defeated the Buffalo Bills. A lot of people are not giving credit to this Chiefs team. In fact, a lot of people are now saying that
Stephon Diggs is still standing there watching the celebration again.
Stephon Diggs. It's really bad that picture is relevant 3 years. For 3 years.
Oh, dude, there's so much memes of him standing there four different times.
But the narrative coming from that game is that Josh Allen will not get over the hump. And a lot of people were saying that this is going to be like the new Brady Manning. But now that Josh Allen, once again, and it's not Josh Allen's fault. Josh Allen played a great game. Mm-hmm. Absolutely phenomenal game. But a lot of people are saying that Josh Allen is more of a Phillip Rivers because of the fact that he has no playoff success.
Yeah, but he has 13 less kids, so I don't know.
But so it is very tough because, as we've said, stats do not make an argument, they help an argument. Mm-hmm. We love the good old eye test. And if you watched that game, you cannot pin that loss on Josh Allen.
No, I mean, there have been plenty of times where, for instance, I don't know about the last play of the game, but, or one of the last ones, but, when Stephon Diggs just dropped it easy over the shoulder pass. I mean, you couldn't have thrown it any better. Very Russell Wilson-esque, by the way, with the moonshot.
I thought it was hilarious, the amount of pictures and memes coming out from it, from people saying the one time you have a chance to, the one chance you have a time to do something in the game, you fail and then come up saying that you almost had it.
Yeah, no joke. It's because you should have had it.
So that is, kudos to the Chiefs. The Chiefs played a great game. They did have a couple mistakes here and there, obviously fumbling the ball in the back of the end zone. It is a rule in the NFL. That's all I'm going to say. It is a rule in the NFL.
Not a fan of it?
It is a rule in the NFL.
I like it.
It is a rule. You like the rule?
I do because because it's so easy. No, I'm not gonna say. plane like I can break the plane, but all you have to do is break the plane. I feel like because offense has consistently got that extra help from the refs and the rules and all that, that this feels like a very like helping the defense out. Because if all you do is extend, then you're done. But if you extend and someone knocks the ball out and do that, you enter at your own risk, and it's a huge risk. I mean, that's big reward, big risk.
High risk, high reward. Did not pay out for McCole Hardman, as he was the one that obviously fumbled across the end zone. But Chiefs won the ball game anyway. A lot of people calling for the head of Tyler Bass. Tyler Bass missed the game-tying field goal. That was a tough one to watch because the ball looked like it was going to go down the middle, hard right. I mean, an absolute 90-degree turn from the football. Tough, brutal beat for Tyler Bass. And the Chiefs win. I mean, it's as simple as that. And the fact that Tyler Bass is still on the team doesn't mean anything. He could be back next season. He could be let go. That'll definitely be something to keep an eye on. I don't think they're going to let go of him, though.
I don't think so.
Because Tyler Bass has been a good kicker for them.
Yeah, and, just sometimes it gets away from you, especially with how, windy it was and all. Like, I mean.
Yeah, with how cold, how windy. And, like, you can stay with somebody like Tyler Bass, who's been a good kicker, or who would you get instead? Like, that's the question that I come up with, is who would he get instead? Would you want a rookie who you might not know if he makes that kick anyway?
That literally prays every time he goes on the field?
Packers. But, or, like, you can get a veteran, but once again, they haven't played the game of football for a little while. Do you get somebody that's been on, like, 8 different teams and doesn't really have confidence? Like, stuff like that.
Exactly. And I feel like, instead of looking at, because it really is, but, instead of looking at that, how about Stephon Diggs? I mean, simple pitch and catch. How about the corner, this is a certain play, but how about, there've been moments where they could have won the game.
The other thing,
game, and not just the last shot.
Yeah, and the other thing is that there were a lot of defensive players injured for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
I mean, they only had 4 linebackers, I believe, suited up because 2 of them were on IR. Tre'Davious White was on IR, their star corner. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the Buffalo, and obviously you get to this late in the season, you can only hope and pray that your team stays fully healthy. And that's not always going to be the case. But at the same time, you can kind of look at that and say, well, that could be a reason we didn't win.
Big time. I mean, like you said, they're missing their, probably one of the best defensive players in White. And then, you look at the other side, it was a lot of Rashid Rice, who would be covering him, Tre'Davious. So.
And the miscommunication on the back end led to a pair of Kelce touchdowns as well. Travis Kelce did a good job of finding the open holes, getting into the end zone, and on the last one, just being able to put his head down, run through a couple players, and get the touchdown. Mm-hmm. Led to an absolute beautiful video of Jason Kelce without a shirt on.
I aspire to be Jason.
We love every video of Jason Kelce without a shirt on.
Yeah. It needs to be more, truly. Parts of me don't want him to retire because, probably the best, if not one of the best centers in the game right now. But if we have more games where he can go to the Chiefs game or the Eagles game, we can get more of that.
Exactly.
More of that passion.
Exactly. So those are our thoughts on more of the divisional teams, not so the divisional games, but we had a couple thoughts of the games in there.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of run by a couple of the coaching in the NFL, the coaching carousel, as a lot of people like to say. Jim Harbaugh won a national championship with the Michigan Wolverines, returns to the NFL, gets brought on by the Los Angeles Chargers. Personally, I think this is a beautiful move. Jim Harbaugh was a quarterback for the Chargers. I think that he'll help Justin Herbert out a little bit. Once you get that offense healthy, that should really help. And Jim Harbaugh knows good football. Obviously, kind of a bit biased, but he did coach the San Francisco 49ers, and he got them to an NFC conference championship game. Now, that is the conference championship game where Richard Sherman had the legendary interview. That one. And he even led the 49ers to a Super Bowl. So, like, Jim Harbaugh knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And I feel like that off of that back of the success of the championship, I really feel like the players are going to respect him as well. I mean, you get someone that is proven, not at both levels now.
Yeah.
Back in there. And the thing about the Chargers is I always have them. I always have them as a dark horse, and they always come up short every single time.
They're dark for a reason, but this time they can actually be a horse.
Yeah.
And so I like
Shakespeare over here.
And I love how Jim Harbaugh brings toughness to that team. The Michigan team was very tough. When you look at a lot of Chargers games, it just looks like that in games where they should win, they just get like manhandled. And I was like, well, how? You guys are grown men too. You realize that?
And so now I really hope they get him some protection too.
Now to see somebody to come in and is going to hopefully install that in the Chargers is going to be nice, and hopefully not waste more years of Justin Herbert. Voice crack, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, I have very high hopes. I have very high hopes with the Chargers. I hope the defense gets figured out. I hope Jim brings in the right people in terms of, kind of fitting people like the coaching staff and potentially the players with this next draft or free agency to like-minded.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think I like it for him. I also like the moving on with the Pierce for the Raiders.
Raiders.
I feel like you have some. I mean, your best player, Max Crosby, was gonna leave if he wasn't there. So I kind of forehand. But I just feel like when you have someone liked that much, I mean, you might as well give it a shot. I mean, what's worse going to happen?
Well, everybody saw what a turnaround they had. The eye test came through. The Raiders had an absolute 180 as soon as Antonio Pierce became their head coach. And he is beloved by everyone. Fits in the Raiders culture perfectly. Obviously was a player, can, kind of like coach players better because he has that player experience. And the fact that everybody in the locker room loves him and supports him. One of my favorite things is his first conference as the actual head coach. He came out with the Raiders chant for the media. And I feel like that is just a very cool way to start your head coaching.
Yeah, well, to me, it makes it more like, you're in the trenches with your players and not just like high and mighty, like, I'm the coach, they're the players. I feel like Antonio Pierce is a very like for the players person, and now he's head coach.
Yes. The Tennessee Titans hire the Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan. Personally, I do not think the Titans should have fired Mike Vrabel. A lot of people within the organization and a lot of people with ties to the organization have said that there are issues within the organization, and Mike Vrabel was not one of them. I do not think they should have fired Mike Vrabel. However, I am not part of the organization, so they do. And Brian Callahan comes in from the Bengals. Brian Callahan has coached some good quarterbacks. Hopefully, he'll be able to get there. Titans are in a rough spot this offseason with Derrick Henry leaving. questions about Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill. So Brian Callahan has definitely got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very sacrificial thing too. I feel like he got the job. It's like lighting the fuse and the firework, and at the last second, someone else. Obviously Mike did wrong. I love that grit that he brought. I just think the team was stale. I mean, they want to get rid of. They wouldn't let Tannehill go. They tried Will. Will came down, but honestly, he's not much different.
I was going to say, it was A.J. Brown got traded. Kevin Byard got traded. That's two of their best players right there. And that all happened within 2 years.
Yeah.
I think one of their best offensive players got traded. One of their best defensive players got traded to the same team, which is kind of funny. Both to the Eagles.
Yeah, the Tennessee Eagles.
Yeah, and so right then and there, and you could see as soon as A.J. Brown got traded, the visible frustration that Vrabel had. And I think from there, it just went downhill.
Big time.
But that being said, Brian Callahan starts his coaching career, and we hope the best things for him are to come. I also hope that they do not fire him after one season, because the Titans will take a couple seasons to get this thing correct and back on track.
Correct. Just like taking a risk on a top prospect in a draft, you need to let them grow. You need to help them, develop them, and all that. So
yeah, and that is in my professional podcasting opinion.
Facts.
Panthers hire the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, Dave Canales. Panthers are also a very interesting team, as their coach is very fast, or their owner is very fast to move off of people. They do have Bryce Young, which is kind of a tough spot for Dave Canales, because now he has to build around that. You can't trade up for a first-round pick and then after a season be able to, kind of look into other options. You are stuck with that option.
Yeah.
And so Dave Canales also definitely has his work cut out for him. And then Falcons hire Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, which was very shocking to me because of the way that most of these NFL head coaching vacancies went. I mean, we just went through Jim Harbaugh, offensive guy. Antonio Pierce was a defensive guy, but he had already flipped around the team. Bengals offensive coordinator goes to Titans. Tampa Bay offensive coordinator goes to Panthers. Raheem Morris is the first defensive coordinator to go to a different team for their head coaching job, and the only defensive coordinator to go to a different team for a head coaching job so far this offseason. And that one is interesting. The Falcons obviously have the pieces that they need to succeed. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not even talking about Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder can succeed. We've seen it before, but even Taylor Heineke has had the spotlight on him, and he's played well. Kyle Pitts is supposed to be generational talent who didn't get used. Bijan Robinson is supposed to be a generational talent who didn't get used. Even Drake London out wide is really well. On the defensive side, Grady Jarrett.
I would say the Falcons' defense was nothing to wince at, man. There are definitely teams that
Jesse Bates got a couple votes for Pro Bowl and first team. I don't know if he made either of them, but I know he got votes. Jesse Bates has been phenomenal for them. A lot of signs point to coaching on that team. And I saw somewhere in a magazine to where this Falcons team was pretty much if you had the 2016 Warriors offense going through Andrew Bogut and Festus Ezeli, and I couldn't have agreed more.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those situations, realize your strong suits and stick to them. Kind of see if you can hide your weaknesses, where this just felt like it was just a mess.
Exactly. The Eagles do a fresh, clean sweep. They fire pretty much every coordinator. They keep Nick Sirianni. So far, the Eagles have hired Vic Fangio, who was the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. He goes to the Eagles now, hoping to turn around that Eagles defense because obviously they struggled in the later part of the year. The Dolphins defense was not anything to... They weren't a bad defense. They weren't anything to kind of wrinkle your nose at, you know? And so hopefully Vic Fangio can kind of turn around that Eagles defense because, as we've said many times this show and will continue to say, we like good football.
Good football. Good football.
So out of all of those hires that I've just said, the Commanders and the Seahawks are the only teams that have yet to find coaches.
Yeah, I would
Now,
absolutely love Mike Vrabel for the Seahawks.
with that said, 2 teams left with names such as Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, still left. Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, still left. Todd Monken, I believe, was supposed to be getting interviews. But huge names. Mike Vrabel has yet to find a landing spot. Bill Belichick has yet to find a landing spot.
I just can't imagine him coaching another team.
And Pete Carroll has yet to find another landing spot. So 3 notable coaches, 2 coaching spots left.
Well,
2 head coaching spots left, I should say.
Rumor has it that Pete Carroll's still like in the building for the Seahawks, and with him, correct? I believe he's the oldest coach in the NFL. I just don't see someone picking up Pete Carroll. You know, as a Seahawk fan and watcher of good football, it just felt like Pete Carroll is just not up to the times. You know, I'm not saying he's old school in that sense, but it just seems like he's always lagging behind that. By the time the NFL has moved to something, he was now the last fad. He's now in the last fad. You know, like with the Russell Wilson, you know, he was all big plays with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, you know, Aaron Rodgers. Big plays were bread and butters for leagues, and then they kind of switched over to the, you know, give your best playmaker the ball and let him work. Well, then here comes Russell Wilson lobbing it downfield and all that. And the thing about that is it's easier to stop than the constant. I mean, look at the 49ers this year. I mean, once you have people that can run the short to medium routes very well, you have to cover that. Then that just makes it for the deep ball. But when you rely on the deep ball, that's where problems can arise. So I don't see Pete Carroll going anywhere. And if it is, it's maybe for a culture change. But with how old he is, I don't see it lasting.
With Pete Carroll, like you said with Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick is also a tough one for me because it's that. I feel like he's stuck in his defensive ways. And plus, he's up there in age. You have no idea how much longer Bill Belichick is going to be coaching. And if you put Bill Belichick at the helm, if you give him the keys to the organization, he is going to do things his way. He's probably going to want to be the GM. He's going to want to bring in his own people. You're going to have to do a full reset for 5 decent years, 5 to 10 years out of Bill Belichick. But who knows what those back 5 could look like? Who even knows what the front 5 could look like? Because we saw the back end of the Patriots. They didn't have the best roster, but they did not look good.
Well, and the thing is, it just looks like they stopped trying. That's the biggest thing. You know, I feel like Belichick is one of those people that he's accomplished everything that you want to coach to. I mean, he coached the greatest of all time in Tom Brady. He has, you know, insane amount of rings. Insane amount of rings. You know, like what else does he have to prove? And so I feel like that's what the last few years of the Patriots was just like, here we are, you know.
So Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll still available. But as you've said and as I've said, Mike Vrabel is the best looking coach left. I am shocked that he hasn't found a job yet. I will be absolutely shocked if he does not find a job. I mean, Mike Vrabel was a great head coach for what he had, and I think any team would be lucky to have him.
Yeah, it's funny because like the offensive coordinator, I mean, like Bengals, like he has some good years this year, kind of stuff like that. It's like these offensive coordinators or these coordinators in general, gets a better rap and more flexibility than the head coaches do, which is funny because like Vrabel, I mean, he had Derrick Henry. That's all he had. Where these coordinators are, they have protection of the head coach, they have protection of the other coordinators, where the head coach is the guy. And so I wonder if that has something to come into play where they're like, hey, they're coordinators, they're right at their job or they're good at their job or, whichever. Let's see what happens when they get a big boy job, where the big boys, it's like, oh, yeah, you were good only like a few years ago, but like not now, kind of thing.
Exactly.
But, well,
And that is the coaching carousel so far
love it.
as of January 25th, 2024. Last but not least for NFL thoughts is the conference championship games.
Mm-hmm.
Predictions, betting lines, stuff like that. All of the numbers that I will be reading off, I got from FanDuel. They're not a sponsor yet, hopefully.
Yeah, you get it.
I mean, it would be great, but all the numbers I got was from FanDuel Sportsbook. We're going to start off with the early game. I say early because it's 3 p.m. Eastern time, I believe. Kansas City at Baltimore. Baltimore is hosting the game, and they are favored by 3.5 points. Who do you have?
I also have the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, this Chiefs team has been playing very, very well, very hot. And it's hard to bet against Mahomes, but it's just I feel like this is kind of like the next man up. It's only fitting that people's biggest gripes with it, me included, was that Lamar was a runner, passer. And now he's made that transition. I mean, we talked about the Ravens before when we were talking about against Houston. It's just it just feels like it's their time to shine.
I do have Baltimore Ravens plus 3.5 in this game because, once again, a lot of this narrative is going to be Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. But that defense for the Baltimore Ravens is something else. I think the way that the people that they have to cover Kelsey, I think the people that they have to cover Rashee Rice, the people that they have to stop the run, to stop the pass, it's a complete defense. And I love everything about the Baltimore Ravens defense. I think they win this game. I think they win this game by more than 4 points.
Yeah.
Or should I say 4 points or more?
Yeah.
The under-over for this game is 44.5 points. Do you have a preference in this one?
I'm going to say right around it, but I'm going to say probably over. I mean, this Ravens team is nasty, but I can just, of course, if weather's fine, if weather's good, where the Chiefs just, I mean, they're the Chiefs. They have been the pinnacle of success the last, pretty much after the Patriots ended. So they're the ones that I think are going to be able to show up. They're the ones that's going to be willing to put things on the board, with Andy Reid at the helm. It's going to be a lot of things that the Ravens defense hasn't accounted for. And I feel like it's just a matter of time before they score touchdowns. And I just think the Baltimore Ravens are just so multi-layered on offense that the Chiefs defense, I think they're the second best defense right now, I think they're going to, I think the Ravens are going to find out to put points in the board.
I am with you a little bit. I think it's going to be right around that 44.5, but I'm leaning towards the under based on what you said, based on what I've said. I've been very high on the Baltimore defense this show, and I think the Kansas City defense has also grown leaps and bounds from years past. I think that this game will be under the 44.5 mark. Moving on
Okay.
to the late night game. Detroit Lions at the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are favored by 7 points in this game. Do you have the San Francisco 49ers +7 or the Detroit Lions -7?
So, as much as I love the Lions, I think their defense is less than desirable. I'm not going to say they're trash by any means, but they're definitely more offensive heavy. And when you're going to be matching up this Niners defense, I think they're going to have problems. I really do. As much as I love the Lions, I love their want the Lions. I just think it got to be the Niners.
So you are taking the 49ers +7.
Yes.
This one was very difficult for me because I think 7 points in an NFC Championship game is a lot to give to somebody. But I refuse to vote against the 49ers, so I am also taking the 49ers +7.
Woo! Niners! It's the one time. Nah, I'm kidding. I think I hate the Seahawks more than the Seahawks hater. Really.
The under-over for this game is 51.5 points. And do you have a preference on which way that goes?
I think it'd be under. I mean, that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points.
I think this one's going to be over, actually.
Yeah?
Deebo Samuel's looking good, looking like he's going to play. As you said, the Lions' defense is not the best. I mean, there is their pass rush. They are going to get after the quarterback, but I think Brock Purdy's going to find a way to put points on the board. And I think the Lions are going to come through and put some points on the board as well. I think this will be a high-scoring game, and I think they hit over.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do.
I can see that.
So we both have the Ravens and the 49ers winning.
Yep.
And then in the Ravens game, you have over 44.5 points, and I have the under. And then in the 49ers and Lions game, you have the under 51, and I have the over.
Yeah.
So we both have the same teams winning, but we are different in how many points are going to be scored.
Yep. Yeah, 51 is a lot,
And
This is a lot, and I just don't think the Lions are going to be able to put up much points, and I can see the Niners kind of, once they get up ahead, kind of coasting.
exactly wrong. You thought
you're stupid.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but I got to stick with my guts here.
You said. You just spit in my face.
No.
I feel the
we
hate.
are bringer-uppers here. Here.
I'm the bringer-upper. You're the bringer-downer.
No. Don't you put that on me. Don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby. I'm a bringer-upper too, okay? Just because some of your betting skills are not there. I'm not going to say mine are either, but we're both bringer-uppers.
I'm a bringer downer because if you look at my FanDuel account,
things are looking down from there.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, just do what Nick said because he's doing the opposite, and just don't do it because he's right. Just do it because I'm wrong.
I would have the same advice, but we're kind of going against each other, so I don't know who's going to win this. Either way, we're going to keep track and we're going to let you know how things pan out next week. That is what we have for NFL this week. Now we're moving on to NBA.
Woo! I'm in my class.
Getting into the NBA.
Before we get anywhere, I want to ask this. So, for the people at home, Nick he's going to college for sports broadcasting, right?
I am trying to become one of the people in sports media. Hence, one of the reasons why this podcast started, because obviously, get the name out there, sports media world. It's gonna work.
Nick and B. But so, I have a question, Nick.
Okay.
So,
hit me with it.
Doncic recently, kind of lashed out towards a reporter that has been reporting, the negatives about him and trying to throw dirt on his name. Do you think this is going to be good for the sports in the sense that now athletes they can kind of criticize the media and kind of bring that to light?
So there's a way to go about it for it to be good to the sport. It can be good for the sport. It can also be bad for the sport. Like
Okay.
you said you said the phrase, he lashed out. If we get a bunch of these NBA players that keep lashing out at the media, it's just going to create tension there. Nobody in the media is going to want to write good things about NBA players if all they do is lash out and create more publicity. You know, if you are able to get under that NBA player's skin and make them get, irritated, upset, whatnot, and make them lash out and do things that they normally wouldn't do, that's going to draw in a lot more views than if you compliment an NBA player and just have them sit at the podium with a smile on their face. Now, as bad as that sounds, because that sounds really bad, that's the way that, the sports media works right now.
Right.
And so I think there's a way of doing it. I think there are always going to be people who are trying to do the negative types of things. But if NBA players really want to try to phase this out, then they're going to have to take this in a more joking
professional
part. Yeah, professional. Like, you can take it professionally, but like, if you want to criticize them, do it in a joking manner, where even though you get your point across, it seems like a joke, even though like you weren't joking. Like, people can do that, and it'll be perfectly fine. Jared Goff, back to the NFL for a second. Jared Goff had one where
you just had to. You just knew I like the NBA better.
It's just because it's an interview that I recently saw where Jared Goff kind of threw his punches in a little bit, kind of like making fun of the reporter, but doing it in a joking way to where he had a smile on his face. Nobody said that Jared Goff lashed out.
Yeah, but also you have to think like I feel like Luka's interaction is gonna carry more weight than the other one. It's just like when Russell Westbrook was asked if they won the game or if the Jazz lost. Like of course I'm not gonna say what to the reporter, but it's like that where it's like it's a meme, but nothing happened to. Where like hopefully Luka kind of shows it's like, yeah, there are bad reporters. I mean, look at LeBron. People love, a lot of people love LeBron, but those aren't the ones being heard because the reporters, like you said earlier, you have to almost hate somebody, like throw a bunch of hate to someone to get views, which yes, I 100% think is wrong. But, if we have less of those, maybe that can change the narrative on the people. It's kind of like how the news, people stop watching the news because they say it's always so negative. But
media time is required for any part of starting at college basketball. I mean, D3, D2, D1, JUCO basketball, like media time is built in. And so from there, you kind of learn how to deal with media after wins, after losses. But getting to the NBA level is obviously not based on media. It's based on your basketball play. I think how you deal with media is going to be a lot different. And I also think that there should be repercussions for media since media time is required. Like having it could be fines, it could be taking their media passes away, it could be stuff like that. I think there has to be a repercussion for the media when they get responses like that, because it doesn't happen just because of one time. It happens because like you said, they're constantly doing it with negative stories and negative questions, and they're just constantly trying to get under the skin and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the end of the day, we need to realize players bigger than life. Like me talking to Luka would be amazing, but at the end of the day, they're still people.
As I say, they are people too. They have feelings, and especially after big games and whatnot, some of those feelings come out, good or bad.
But also, so Luka was saying like, It's like, oh, you didn't hear because, you know, people kind of made fun of Luca because they're like, oh, what he said was bad, but Luca's like, you didn't hear what he was saying before, and it kind of brings me back to the point where Russell Westbrook had the same thing with a fan in Utah, where he was saying, you know, pretty much you and your wife can catch these hands. That, you know, we all kind of made fun of him, but then when it comes down to, you know, what was actually said, it's like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, and that's the thing because the professionals, we only hear their side. We don't
Exactly.
hear what the normal person in the audience said because, you know, obviously microphones don't pick that up and whatnot. We only see or hear Russell Westbrook had that dude thrown out. Luka Doncic had that dude thrown out. We didn't hear what he said to deserve it. We just immediately point fingers because that's the easy thing to do.
Yeah, instead of like really realizing that like fans, you know, like
Like
we're
putting in
fans,
research and whatnot.
yeah, but sometimes fans are the worst people. I mean, like they just think there's no way that a human can be acting like that towards somebody. And Lucas says something too where they're like, well, if he was saying all these bad things in the first half, why do you have it thrown out? He's like, well, because he paid money. You know, you know, there's more than the game than just the players. You know, it's the person that saved up all this money just to go see a game. It's the one that got it gifted for their birthday and they're super excited. You know, like Luca really thought about it from not just a business standpoint, but also like has some. I always get it wrong, but empathy, sympathy, whichever one fits here. I'm not in college, you are, so hopefully you'll know. But you know, whichever one fits there for the guy, even though he was saying all these like nasty, rude stuff to him. So you know, Luca lashing out is like, yeah, he's probably tired because you probably heard that question already. He's like, dude, I wish I didn't do that because now I feel like a dick. And now the press is going to ask me all about this. It's going to be all over the TV and all that. And so I'm sure he was kind of regretting that question. I think that's why he probably lashed out so much.
And that could be the case too, because it's very easy for, you know, especially this year, if he goes on a big playoff run, it's very easy to just bring that back up.
Oh yeah, no matter, you know, no one talks about the time when he was a rookie, hit that crazy buzzer beater. But God forbid they'll ask, you know, they'll tell him when he was throwing a fit. You
Yeah,
know, it's just how fandom is. That's
because
what's
then
sad.
the negative side gets views. And it's very sad to say, but that's the way that the sports media works right now.
Oh yeah, big time. And hopefully you're part of the change to come in.
I
That's kind of
am
what we hope the snap
aspiring
is.
to be in the sports media world. Technically, we both are by starting this podcast,
Woo!
and
And I
we're
didn't have to
trying to
spend
be,
money.
and we are trying to be the getter uppers of the sports
Yeah,
media world, as they say, the getter uppers.
the getter uppers. Getter uppers, the fans of good basketball. But okay, so with that being said, let's actually get into our topics. That's something that I didn't even disclose to Nick. That's something I really wanted to ask him his personal feelings on right at the jump because he is, you know, kind of more or less partial to this. That's what he inspired him to do in his life. So, with that being said, let's talk about these standings, man. You know, let's talk about that first seed in the West. Talk about
So
them blue and orange.
the West is competitive. I
As
mean,
always, West is
when
the
you
best,
look at
baby.
the West side, it is because the top three are all tied right now, which is crazy to think. And literally the 1, 2, and well, after today, because we are recording this kind of late. As of right now, the Timberwolves are the 1 seed, 32 and 13. Half a game behind them is the Thunder at 31 and 13. Tied with the Thunder, or I guess a game behind the Thunder, are the Nuggets at 31 and 15. And then the Clippers are number 4 at 28 and 14, 2.5 games behind. So the
Yeah.
1 and the 4 seed are 3 games apart from each other. All it takes is 2 games where the Clippers win 2 games, the Timberwolves lose 2 games, and they switch.
Yeah, And I think that's crazy, especially for how bad this Clippers team's when they first got Harden. I mean, I was
As a Clippers fan, I'll be the first to tell you I did not like the Harden trade.
yeah. No,
I
I mean,
thought, and I thought I was right because when we first got Harden, we lost like 7 straight games.
yeah, I mean, and then he said, "Oh, they asked him if you're going to fit in the system." He said, "I am the system." That's really scary considering a guy who just got brought on, and you have Kawhi and Paul George in the back. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy for you to say that. And I mean, I got to tip my hat to Ty Lue. He asked for 10 games, and it took a little longer than 10 games, but these boys are hot.
I got it. Well, I got to tip my hat to Ty Lue as well. Ty Lue's been a very good coach for the Clippers, and I'm also tipping my hat to Russell Westbrook to be
Yeah,
able to take a bite out of his or take a stab to
his legacy.
his legacy and his pride, and be able to say, just keep me on the bench, put me as a bench player. I'll thrive there, and that's what he's been doing.
Yeah,
It's not to say, and he's been putting up
controlling the second
numbers too.
Yeah,
He's been putting up numbers as second unit, so I gotta tip my hat to Clippers. Their past 30 games, they're 23-7.
sure feel like it. It sure feels like it. And I don't think there'll ever be a point in time where Clippers is, dethrones Lakers as a LA team. But I'm really hoping now that they're getting their own stadium and kind of stuff like that, and now that this is, well, arena, I guess, and now that they're getting good right now, like I really hope they get into that different arena and just go nuts.
That's what I am hoping as well. Some other notable standings is the Kings at the 7th seed, going from the 3 seed last year to the 7th seed.
Not surprised.
The Mavericks and Luka Doncic are at the 8 seed.
Also not surprised.
The Lakers, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers are the 10 seed, 22-23 on the season.
Yeah, I mean that's just what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, Vanderbilt was good for him last year. Rui was good for them last year. It doesn't mean they'll be good for you this year. And the with LeBron getting older, and I'm glad AD's stepping up, but now everything else is falling.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see it when LeBron James has to take games off that the Lakers don't play nearly as good basketball. They're just not
No.
able to capitalize on mistakes. Their transition's a little funky. You're relying on a big man, essentially. And in today's game and age, that's hard to do. Unless you're Joel Embiid or Karl Anthony Towns, apparently.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, they got to show up for Kobe. Rest in peace with the Lumba. They got to show up for him.
And the last couple of surprising teams are the Warriors at the 12 seed, 19-22.
It hurts. It hurts. It's one of those things that's like not necessarily preying on their downfall, but you've watched them be so good for so long. Like, when is it going to be someone else's time? And now someone else's time does come, and it sucks to see because I mean Curry has so much left to give, and you can tell that he's giving his all, and even Steph Curry bleeds. I mean even the last few games he isn't looking like Curry of the years prior, or even the beginning of the season.
Well, the last couple games this past season, Klay Thompson hasn't really looked good. Draymond Green has been getting in all of those fights and suspensions and choking people and punching people and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it just shows that it takes a toll.
And then last but not least, the San Antonio Spurs bringing up the rear end. Victor Wembanyama, 8-36 with Greg Popovich as his coach.
That's tough.
8-36. Only
Popovich is
23 and a half games behind first place.
Dude, they can probably do that in a month, man. They just got to turn it
True.
up, and everything else got to fall completely apart.
Everything else, every other team in the East has to absolutely shit the bed.
Yeah, I think if the Timberwolves top 7 just decides to not play basketball and just switch over to like golf, I think they have a
I
chance.
I think the Nuggets have to get hit with a meteor at some point.
Yeah, the high elevation has to affect them. No,
Moving
I mean
on.
it really
No,
sucks because I get a very like Bill Belichick vibe from Pop. I mean, I love Pop, and he's been one of the guys and stuff like that. But it sucks. I think they should go away from him. As much as I think he'll be good for Wemby, I think just in terms of his legacy, San Antonio kind of owes it to him.
going on to the Eastern Conference. Celtics at the 1 seed.
Absolute dogs.
As I said, I don't think that shocks anybody. The Celtics have been pretty dominant for the past couple of top once again. Doesn't shock anybody. Best record in the NBA. Behind them are the Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are 3.5 games behind them in the 2 seed.
Yeah, with a
brand new coach.
Yeah, Doc Rivers. Here with you being the Clippers fan, how do you feel?
So I've heard many takes about this over the past couple of years. It is a good regular season move. I do not trust Doc Rivers in the playoffs. I have physically seen what Doc Rivers does in the playoffs, and I like what he does in the regular season, and I do not trust what he does in the postseason.
But do you think with the Bucks' prolific last few years being, that championship and
I think it doesn't matter.
You don't
we've
think
we've seen prolific teams do great in the regular season and fall on their face in the playoffs.
Well, that's true, but you also have to think, there's name a champion that has done that due to coaching, not due to like an injury or something like that.
Well, we've seen the Boston Celtics do that. They did win a championship with Doc Rivers. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But we've seen it from the Celtics. That same team, in fact, we saw them blow a 3-1 lead. The Clippers blew many 3-1 leads under Doc Rivers, and that was a Lob City team who constantly got the 2 or the 3 seed. Even going to the 7, even that COVID year when they blew the 3-1 series lead when he was coaching the Clippers against the Nuggets when he had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. With the 76ers when he had Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, James Harden. We saw him blow a couple playoff leads there. What we see from Doc Rivers is that he is a good coach to have in the regular season because he gets along with players. But when the time comes to where you need a coach to step in, we normally see teams fall on their face.
I think it's because of the lack of adjustments. I think he just
exactly, and that goes to coaching.
That's true. Well, funny enough, I was playing devil's advocate because I don't like this signing. Almost at all, because
Okay.
I feel like you hired a worse Coach Bud.
Now I will say,
and now you have Rivers coaching for a year or two, and like you're saying, the last time it was James Harden, where it was dribble, Joel,
now,
like.
I will say the Milwaukee Bucks head coach
keep trying to
was not the best coach. Yeah, I'm flipping the switch. The Milwaukee Bucks last head coach, I say, like, their head coach before Doc Rivers was not the best at making adjustments either. I mean, this is a Bucks team who is supposed to be very good at defense, and we saw this Bucks team give up 120 points in like 6 straight games.
Yeah, but you have to think, who's the main component? It was the best perimeter defender in Jrue Holiday. I don't think it's more. I think the defense takes a hit with Lillard. Like, yes, I've seen him sit in the seat before, put his hands up and classic high school defense pose, but he's not Jrue Holiday. I mean, Jrue Holiday was able to play 1 through 3, maybe 1 through 4.
You do
like
move on from
defend him.
Damian Lillard to Drew Holiday, or from Drew Holiday to Damian Lillard, but you still have Giannis, who's a defensive player of the year, Bobby Portis, which is a very good defensive player, Brooke Lopez, who's good in the paint.
Yeah, but the thing you're missing
Drew,
is that Giannis, because perimeter so perfectly well, that Giannis was a better float. He would float around, and I mean, he's probably the best help side defender in basketball right now. But now that you don't have an amazing perimeter defender who would guard, because you have to think too, a lot of the NBA players' opponents, their best players are the guards or forwards, like small forwards. I mean, I don't have to go through them. I mean, you can it's a guards game. And so now you have Lillard who's ever since he was in Portland, well, I say ever since he wasn't there last year, ever since he was a rookie, he's been trying to almost like preserve his energy for the offense because that's the best thing he provides. Where Drew Holiday, you get that playmaking that Lillard can provide, not as much scoring, but that scoring is equivalent to his defense. Then that allows other people to kind of, around. And so I feel like the coaching isn't the problem. I really think it's Drew Holiday. And I think it's going to be having to find a new identity for this team now midway through the season.
yeah, because especially when you fire your head coach midway through the season,
yeah,
and obviously problems are coming through with problems are throughout the organization. If you are 31-13, I mean they've won 7 of their last 10 games, but they're firing their head coach. Obviously, something is very much wrong if that's the case.
I mean, hell, I saw a picture of Giannis making his own play. And then, like in the beginning, the new head coach, he was saying like, "Hey, like I want you to me, all this and that." Lillard came to him like, "Hey, you're not using me right." Hey, Giannis was always making hints of the, "Hey, you're not using me," kind of stuff like that. Where the Bucks is now this big pillar, one of the pillars of success in the NBA. That when you're asking your team to do your job for you, no, that's not the job. It's not like I work at a convenience store and I'm supposed to be inside and now I pump the gas. It's like, no, you're inside. Everyone has their thing that works. You're the coach. You draw the X's and O's, and the players be the Joes.
So the Bucks at the 2 seed with all of their problems going on. With the 3 seed, we see the 76ers, who Joel Embiid a couple nights ago had that absolute dominant 70-point performance.
Yeah.
Took 23 free throws.
I think only 1 3-point. Is that right?
One 3-pointer, 2 3-pointers attempted. So 50% from 3. But took 23 free throw attempts, made 21 of them. But that's still 50 points he had to get outside of free throws.
Yeah.
And he shot 21 for 41 field goal percentage, that's not bad shooting for a night, especially on a night where you score 70.
I was going to say 41 shots. Like that is so much.
41 shot attempts is absolutely insane for any team to have.
Throws, like, God.
Yeah, plus the 23 free throws. Joel Embiid had the ball quite a lot. He did also end up with 18 rebounds and 5 assists. The 5 assists, he can say he passed the ball, but 41 shots and 23 free throws say otherwise.
Right.
The Knicks at the 4 seed, 28-17. They've been doing well since they traded R.J. Barrett. And they traded him to the Raptors. I know that.
I can't. Like
Because they
for
traded,
who
they
the
traded. Well, I know that they traded for OG Ananobi. I'm trying to
yeah.
Emmanuel Quickly. That's who they also traded. So they traded RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, got OJ Ananobi, and the Knicks have been pretty good. 8-2 in their last 10 games in the 4 seed. The Cavaliers in the 5, Pacers in the 6.
Red hot. That Cavs team is red hot too.
Cavaliers also 8-2 in their last 10 games and on the come up. Donovan
Mhm.
Mitchell has been healthy lately. That Cavs team been fun to watch, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, big time.
Obviously the Pacers up there, 6th seed. Tyrese Halliburton, what a year that man is having. And now that they went out, traded, got Tyrese Halliburton some help with Pascal Siakam.
hmm And if you look, Siakam is, I think, the best, if not one of the best, run and transition bigs.
And Tyrese Halliburton is one of the best transition point guards. So
Oh,
it's kind of
one of the
it's
best
kind of
point
a
guards in general.
it's
And
kind
he's
of a
just,
match made for transitions,
it
let
really
alone
was.
just the
And
game in general.
yeah, I can't wait to see how much spinning hooks Pascal does once it's not coming down to running down the court full speed.
The
I'm really interested to see how much spin moves. Oh, over
the
under 9.
oh, I'm hitting the over on that one.
over baby.
I'm hitting that over, baby.
FanDuel needs to do that. Needs to
The
do an over under on that, and then like a
the
but
Heat
still
come
make it.
in at the 7 seed. The Heat recently traded for Scary Terry. Terry Rozier goes to the Heat for a first round pick and Kyle Lowry.
I really like that for the Heat. I think it because Tyler Hero always seems to be in and out of the lineup, or in and out of the street clothes really, and I think it provides another one. I think the problem that's going to come is once they're both healthy, it'd be almost the same player. But I really, really, really for Kyle Lowry. I mean, or the Miami Heat off of Kyle Lowry. You get rid of his $30 million a year, opens up some decent space, and obviously their first round pick. I mean, they were able to bring in some decent free agents with Jimmy Butler and also draft. I mean, they had none a few years back that was undrafted. I mean, got him a job as a Laker. And there's that the JJJ guy, I believe, that they drafted this
Jaime
year.
Jaquez. I really enjoy me some Jaime.
Me too. Me too.
He fits into that Heat culture well.
They really do, and I think that's a beautiful thing where you need it for the Heat because one, they're always good, and two, they bring that culture that someone can come in and fit immediately.
Yeah, and you need somebody, especially in that culture, because you can find out if somebody doesn't work almost immediately in that culture.
Yeah,
If
when
they
their
come
BMI
in,
is above what it be.
like when they come in, you can definitely tell because the Heat have that grittiness to them. Where if somebody's not diving for a loose ball or if somebody's not fighting for a rebound, it's like, this doesn't really seem like a Heat player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have a lot of dogs in that team, and that's why when playoffs come about, it works so well because when everyone else is gassed because now they have to do the diving and stuff like that, they're used to it.
The bunch of mumbo jumbo there. The 8 through the 13 seed. Magic, Bulls, Hawks, Nets, Raptors, and Hornets. And rounding out the Eastern Conference is the Wizards. 7 wins, 37 losses. And the Detroit Pistons. 5 wins, 39 losses.
I saw a thing where because they won like their 2 games like relatively early, I think within the first 5 games, there was a bet on FanDuel that you could do for the Pistons not to win a single game for the rest of the year. And I think if I were the Pistons GM, I would go down and give an A1 ass kicking to the owner of FanDuel. I don't care. There's the amount of disrespect that is
Not
to
only
even
was
post
there
that is crazy.
not only was there a bet, but there was somebody who made that bet, put $40 on that bet, and was one game short of winning $4,000 off of it.
Yeah.
That's what I would be upset about. Is that not only is that the bet was made, but the fact that they got so close to actually cashing it out.
Yeah.
That's what's
I'd
crazy.
cry.
I would also
that's my
cry.
luck right there. That's my luck to a T. And honestly, what's really funny is so Kyle Kuzma had this comment that no one wants to be the receiving
No.
the L's from the Pistons,
Yep.
right? And it's really funny that now the Pistons are closing that gap on the Wizards. And I really think
Exactly.
it's
And
because
they
of that
beat them.
comment.
And they beat them.
Yeah.
That's what's funny to me is that the Wizards lost to the Pistons after Kuzma said that.
Yeah, I mean they're the Pistons are 2-8 and they're 10, and I believe either all of that or most of that has been without Cade. And since Cade is on his way back, I think it's only going to get better from there, having a true number one and true leader of the team.
Last but not least, we are going to round out this podcast episode in number 1 with the All-Star starters. The 2024 NBA All-Star starters got announced earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
On the East side, they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, captain for the East.
Makes sense.
I like the fact that they're going back to East versus West. I love the
me
fact
too.
that they're going back to East versus West. Joel Embiid is a starter for the East. And then the wings are going to be Damian Lillard and Jason Tatum. And then the starting guard is Tyrese Halliburton. So that is Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, and Jason Tatum starting for the East. Makes sense. Those are the correct 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so as well.
For the West, they have LeBron James as the captain, alongside Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Nikola Jokic.
I mean, yeah.
Ultimately, as I say, with these two starting lineups, they got them right. I don't have any problems with these All-Star starters.
Yeah, the only thing I can see is Damian Lillard. Instead of him being Jalen Brunson in there. I can see that argument, not saying it is. I think Lillard has just more game winners. I mean, he has to be in the running for Clutch's Player of the Year. And so I can see that being what gives him the top over Jalen Brunson, but I'll listen to Jalen Brunson.
I think I would as well, but once again, I think Damian Lillard kind of deserves the spot. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not upset with the way that the All-Star starters have with the way that the All-Star starters have came out. I'm not upset with any of them.
Yep.
With that, though, this is on a 2-hour mark, and this is nowhere where we thought we were going to be.
Yeah, we were like,
With
yeah,
this.
it might last like 15 minutes.
We were shooting for an hour and a half, got to talking.
Yeah, it was nice, just nice, chill conversation. Of course, the next ones probably ain't gonna be as long unless there's because no intro or anything like that. But yeah, I'd say it was a pretty successful first one.
But with that, obviously, this show is based off our opinions and our opinions alone. He is Shelby. I am Nick. This has been Our Average Podcast, the Shelby Nick Average Podcast, or as we like to call it, Aw Snap. Love to hear that sound. With that,
Did I do good?
we
Was
will.
that a good one?
That was a very beautiful snap.
Hell yeah, dude. You
With that-
got to end the first one on a. You hear that?
Exactly.
I
you
can
gotta,
do that more.
you
like
gotta,
that?
you gotta end it. Ooh, getting a little SpongeBob-esque.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
We appreciate all of you guys for listening. And with that, we will hopefully see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.